Hello friends, welcome to the PSC junction. Let's start with the chapter number 3, our changing earth. The lithosphere is broken into number of plates known as lithospheric plates. You will be surprised to know that these plates move around very slowly, just a few millimeters each year. This is because of the movement of molten magma inside the earth. The molten magma inside the earth moves in a circular manner as shown in the activity. The movement of these plates causes changes on the surface of Earth. The Earth movements are divided on the basis of forces which cause them. The forces which act in the interior of Earth are called endogenic forces, and forces work on the surface of the Earth are called exogenic forces. Earth movement, endogenic forces, exogenic forces. Endogenic forces are up to sudden forces and diastrophic forces. Sudden forces causes earthquake, volcano, landslide. Diastrophic forces building mountains. Erosional and depositional, river, wind, sea waves, and glaciers. Lithospheric plates. The earth crust consists of several large and some small, rigid, irregularly shaped plates which carry continent and ocean floors. Endogenic forces sometimes produce sudden movement, at the other times produce slow movement. Sudden movement like earthquake and volcano cause mass destruction over the surface of the earth. Volcano. Volcano is a vent in the earth crust through which molten material erupts suddenly. Endogenic, endo plus genic. Endo means inside, exo means outside, genic means origin. Similarly, when the lithospheric plates move, the surface of earth vibrates. The vibration can travel all around the earth. These vibrations are called earthquake. The place in the earth crust where the movement starts is called focus. The place on the surface above the focus is called epicenter. Vibration travel outwards from epicenter as waves. Greatest damage is usually closest to the epicenter, and the strength of earthquake decreases away from the epicenter. There are three types of earthquake waves: P waves, longitudinal waves, S waves or transverse waves, L waves or surface waves. Try to find out the properties of these waves from encyclopedia. Although the earthquake cannot be predicted, impact can be certainly minimized if we prepared beforehand. Some common earthquake prediction methods adopted locally by people include studying animal behavior. Fish in the ponds get agitated, snakes come on the surface. Earthquake as a case study. Earthquake hits Bhuj, a massive earthquake measuring 6.9 on Richter scale. Hit Bhuj down on 26 January 2001. School worst affected. At least 971 students and 31 teachers are feared to have lost their lives following and the collapse of a school building. Bhuj relief effort belated. 3 days after the quake, concern rose about the flood, food and blanket and medical supply and reaching everyone. Destruction of Bhuj. Phone lines, water pipelines and power stations transmission lines were knocked out. Fire in the city. Hundreds of fires started as a charcoal cooker over terms. An emergency declared in quake zone. The President declares the state of emergency. CM appeals to the center. Gujarat appeals the financial help to the Chief Minister of Gujarat has launched an appeal to center to deal with the disaster. An earthquake is measured with the machine called seismograph. The magnitude of the earthquake is measured on the Richter scale. An earthquake of 2.0 or less than can felt only little. Earthquake of 5 can cause damage from the things firing. A 6 or higher magnitude considered very strong. 7 is classified as a major earthquakes. Earthquake preparedness. Where to take shelter during the earthquake. Safe spot under a kitchen counter, table or desk, against or inside a corner or a wall. Stay away from fireplaces, area around chimney, window that shatter including mirror and picture frames. Be prepared. Spread awareness among the friends and family members and face any disaster confidently. Major landforms. The landscape is being continuously worn away by two processes, weathering and erosion. Weathering is breaking up the rocks of Earth's surface. Erosion is weathering away of the landscape by different agents like water, wind, and ice. The eroded material is carried away and transported by water, wind, and eventually deposited. This process of erosion and deposition create different landforms on the surface of Earth. Do you know there are thousands of small waterfalls in the world? The highest waterfall is Angel Falls in Venezuela in South America. The waterfalls are Niagara Falls located on the border between Canada and USA in North America and Victoria Falls on the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe in Africa. Work of a river. The running water in the river erodes the landscape. When the river tumbles at a steep angle over very hard rock or down to a steep valley side, it forms a waterfall. As a river enters the plain, it twists and turns, forming large bends known as meanders. Due to continuous erosion and deposition along the sides of meander, the end of meander loop come closer and closer. In due course of time, and the meander loop cuts off from the river and forms a cut-off lake, also known as Oxbow Lake. At the times the river overflows its bank, this leads to flooding of neighboring areas. As it floods, it deposits layers of fine soil and other materials called sediments along its bank. This led to formation of flat, fertile food plain. The raised banks are called leaves. As a river approaches the sea, the speed of the flowing water decreases and the river begins to break up into number of streams called distributaries. The river becomes so slow that it begins its deposit its load. Each distributary forms its own mouth. The collection of sediment from all the mouth forms delta. Work of sea waves. The erosion and deposition of sea waves gives rise to coastal landforms. Sea waves continuously strike at the rocks, cracks develops over time, they become larger and wider. Thus, the hollow-like caves are formed on the rocks. They are called sea caves. As these cavities become bigger and bigger, only the roof of the caves remains, thus forming sea arches. Further erosions are left. These wall-like featuring are called stacks. The steep rocky coast rising almost vertically above the sea water is called sea cliff. The sea waves deposit sediments along the shores, forming beaches. Work of ice. Glaciers are the rivers of ice which to erode the landscape by bulldozing soil and stones to expose the solid rock below. Glaciers carve out deep hollows. As the ice melts, they get filled up with water and becomes beautiful lake in the mountains. The material carried by the glacier, such as rocks, big and small sand silts, get deposited. The deposited form the material carried by glaciers such as rocks, big and small sand and silts get deposited. These deposits form a glacial moraines. Work of wind. Have you ever visited a desert? Try to collect some pictures of sand dunes. Active agent of erosion and deposition in the desert is wind. In desert you can see rocks in the shape of mushroom, commonly called mushroom rocks. Wind erodes the lower section of rock more than the upper part. Therefore, such rocks have narrower base and wider top. Then the wind blows it. It lifts and transports sand from one place to another. When it stops blowing, the sand falls and gets deposited on low hill like structures. These are called sand dunes. When the grains of sand are very fine and light, the wind can carry it over very long distances. When such sand is deposited in large area, it is called losses. Large deposit of losses is found in China.